Hello everyone, my name is Claudia Adriazola-Steil and I welcome you to this lecture on speed management on behalf of the World Resources Institute. Please allow me to show my screen. This is today's agenda. We will recap on the safe system approach. We will look at the global agenda. We have a second decade of action on road safety, and it's worth just understanding what is happening. We will talk about the relationship between speed and fatal injuries, what contributes to unsafe speeds, and what are the consequences, the benefits of safe speeds, and then we will make a pause and we will come back with planning for safer speeds and successful strategies in cities. Let's get started. And we have talked in the past about the safe system approach, but I just wanted to recap for you because the principles of the safe system approach that you can see here to the left are really very important for speed management. First of all, we know that humans, we all make errors. It's part of us. Humans are very vulnerable to injury, and that is directly related to speed. Our bodies are not prepared to absorb kinetic energy, to absorb speed. The responsibility then has to be shared. We do not accept deaths or serious injuries in our transport system. And finally, we need to act proactively versus reactively. And that is because we have already 1,350,000 fatalities, cases from which we can learn to avoid the next crash. Let's take a look at what is going on around the globe. This year, the United Nations has declared a second decade of action for road safety. And the reason is because the numbers are unfortunately not looking good. We have 1,350,000 people that die every year. Last year, in February, Sweden convened the third ministerial conference on road safety that was attended by several heads of states, and they decided on a framework that looks different and that has been adopted by the United Nations. What are these differences? First of all, road safety is now completely connected to the Sustainable Development Goals. And it is very important because road safety deepens poverty. Road safety doesn't allow children to go to school and have a fructuous life. Road safety impedes to have sustainable cities. So we really need to focus on road safety if we want to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. It also calls for a 50% reduction in deaths between 2020 and 2030, and I should add that also serious injuries. It embraces the safe system approach because it has shown results. We need to build places, cities, streets for people as they are, not as they should be. It focuses on child health because, unfortunately, this is the #1 cause of death for children and young people ages 5 to 29. It also focuses quite a bit on vulnerable users of the road, cyclists, pedestrians, and motorcyclists. And the reason is because, as of today, 50% of the population lives in cities. But by 2050, 70% of the population will be living in cities. And you can imagine 20% more people in your city. What that will be, what will that impact be? So we need to prepare to have more vulnerable users of the road and to keep them safe. We also saw that modal shift accelerated change to clean, safe, efficient, and accessible mobility options that promote physical activity at the core of this declaration. Speed, as you can see, is one of the main recommendations. The UN recommends that cities have 30 kilometers per hour in urban areas. And that is because of interaction between vulnerable users of the road and vehicles. And finally, that safe vehicles need to be for everyone. If we look again at the Sustainable Development Goals, from number one, no poverty, you can see how road safety can make a big impact. We look at quality education and health outcomes in sustainable cities. It is really part of these Sustainable Development Goals. And at the core of working on road safety is speed. Speed and the risk of fatal injury is what we will review today. Look at this cartoon. This was created in Sweden, and basically imagine that this street has a speed limit 50 kilometers per hour. You can see the traffic light is in red. If the driver will make a mistake and pass the traffic light, it will hit the pedestrian, or if the pedestrian was crossing when the light was not for him. In any case, that pedestrian, if hit by a vehicle at 50 kilometers per hour, will be comparable as falling from a cliff. This is another graphic to help us understand the relationship between altitude and speed. So if we are hit at 30 kilometers per hour, that is comparable as jumping from the first floor of a building. But at 50 kilometers per hour, that is comparable as jumping from the third floor of a building. Speed kills. For every 1% increase in speed, there is a 4% increase in fatal crashes. Even at that lower percentage increase, we can see a greater increase in fatal crashes. Why? Because humans are vulnerable. And because of that, we need to build a safe road system to reduce deaths and serious injuries. The human body's tolerance to impact forces should be used as the guiding tool. And you see that being backed up by research. You can see here that a person hit at 30 kilometers per hour has 10% of chances of being killed. If you are thinking about a young child, an elderly person, or somebody sick, you can see that that person can have an impact on at 30 kilometers per hour. That goes really fast, and at 50 kilometers per hour, our chances of survival are only 20%. One of the reasons is because when we increase our speed, we also reduce our vision. At 20 kilometers per hour, see how that vehicle can really see the cyclist. At 40, that has decreased, and at 60 kilometers per hour, that vehicle cannot see the cyclist. Higher speeds reduce drivers' capacity to stop in time, reduce maneuverability, making it harder to negotiate curves and corners, and that is critical when you are in a city. In terms of younger children, we know that they are limited by their physical, cognitive, and social development, making them even more vulnerable than users, and making it more of an obligation for us to build according to their development. A safe speed limit is considered one where most crashes can be avoided, and if one did occur, then those involved will have a 90% or more chance of survival and avoid permanent injury. The main question is, are you building streets in cities that can achieve this outcome? What contributes to unsafe speeds? First of all, how we plan. Land use planning, when it is inefficient, is very dangerous. Hierarchy of streets and their purposes should be established at land use planning level and enhanced through the setting of speed limits and appropriate street design. But first is what type of streets we have. If they are long, straight, and allow for cars to go at higher speeds, we will see a tremendous impact on pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists. If we have this type of streets already built in our cities, then we have to act on traffic calming. And we see a lot of lack of traffic calming measures in our cities. What is that? Speed humps, race crossings, chicanes that can really help reduce vehicle speed deliberately and improve safety for vulnerable users of the road. Poorly planned infrastructure, when we have these block sizes that are 500 meters long, 800 meters long, we have seen evidence coming from China, for example, that has shown that long blocks encourage mid-block crossing on arterials, a high-risk area for pedestrian fatalities. But this is not unique for China. It happens in many other places where we, WRI, have been working in cities in Latin America, in Africa, in other cities in Asia, and in Europe. Why? Because humans are not willing to walk more than 100 meters, a maximum 200 meters to cross on a signalized intersection. And that is because we are beings that are very smart. We don't want to spend more of the energy that we have to. Also, that is mixed with our lack of understanding clearly perception of how dangerous is speed, as we have seen in the past slides. So we need to give pedestrians places to cross safely more often if we have these long block signs. Wide travel lanes are made also for cars to go fast. We see evidence from Latin America that shows that the chance of a vehicle collision and pedestrian crash increases by 6% for every additional meter of pedestrian crossing distance. So traffic lines, traffic lanes in our streets in urban areas need to be narrower. In additional lanes, each additional lane also increases crashes at all severity levels. What are the consequences of unmanaged speeds? First of all, we have seen that we have 1,350,000 people that die every year in traffic crashes. If we compare COVID-19 from November 2019 to November 2020, people have died due to the pandemic, 1,333,000. And for traffic fatalities, you can see there that we have a clear hidden epidemic. Poverty, it definitely impacts huge in our countries. 92% of deaths in transit occur in low and middle income countries. South Korea did a very interesting research on victims of traffic crashes, finding that 1/3 of them lost their jobs due to physical inabilities. And the average income level for victims that were able to go back to work, the average time is 2 years, reduced 40% than the national level average. So we can see that poverty is in these families, in these people, but also because of the size of the problem, it becomes a national problem. Lower income residents often live near roads with dangerously fast moving traffic, exposing them to the danger of speeding cars. And in terms of sustainability, if we are aiming to have more cyclists, users of mass transportation, which are pedestrians, and pedestrians, we need to make our streets safer. Places that have high speeds are less sustainable, have air quality problems, the social interactions lessen, the inequity increases, and of course, there are more injuries and fatalities. What are the benefits of safe speeds? First of all, if you see every 1.6 km/h reduction in vehicle speed on urban streets results in 6% decrease in traffic fatalities. This is very minimal related to the number of people that we can save. Congestion. I know that you might have in your mind how I will be working on reducing speeds, on managing speeds if my city is already congested. Well, lower speed limits may reduce congestion as they reduce the likelihood of bottlenecks. In Sao Paulo, for example, lowering the speed limit on major arterials reduced congestion by 10% during the first month of implementation, while fatalities also dropped significantly. And we can see here two examples. One in Grenoble, this is a small city in France, where they decided to reduce the speed in most of the city from 50 kilometers per hour to 30 kilometers per hour. They noticed that even in this very small city, the average speed is not the speed limit. So when they reduced it at 50 kilometers per hour, the average speed was 17.5 kilometers per hour. The time difference between going at 50 kilometers per hour and at 30 kilometers per hour was only 18 seconds. 18 seconds that can really mean the difference between life and death. And this is the same example in Bogota in Colombia, where they decided to reduce the speed limit in arterial roads from 60 kilometers per hour to 50 kilometers per hour. This was modeled from east to west and west to east in peak hour and in normal time. And as you can see, the difference are just seconds. Our cities are already congested. We have many vehicles. And so the main problem is when we have free flow, when the vehicles can go at the speed they want or they can. Safe speeds also foster healthy communities. With the speed slowing infrastructure, cities may see positive trends in residents opting to walk or bike instead of driving. Ask yourself, would you be willing to bike or let your child bike in your city? In terms of the economic benefits, there is a lot to be discussed here, but the first one is look at the hospital beds. Look at the number of beds that are occupied by victims of traffic crashes. It is really big, and if we can reduce those costs and also send back that father or that mother that otherwise would have been killed in a traffic crash and left that family, or a child that is not injured, that the family doesn't have to care for that child for years to go. Imagine how much our societies will be saving. So streets that are more inviting for walking and cyclists are more vibrant and economically successful than streets with high volumes of fast moving traffic. Now we are going to make a pause, and after that we are going to talk about how can we plan towards safer urban streets. Thank you.